All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning to all. Welcome. This is our big show for a Tuesday. Mark Thompson here. Albert there. In fact, Albert is the commissioner of Mark's Madness, which, as you know, is now reaching critical phases. We're losing a lot of players, myself among them. I mean, when your bracket blows up, and now it seems that's all my bracket can do is blow up. If you're joining us and you're new, we'll get you up to speed. We talk about any number of things. This is essentially a radio show that you're looking in on. It's a hybrid, I suppose. And Albert is the commissioner of Mark's Madness, which you'll learn about in a moment if you're new. And Kim is our news person. She's out sick today, so not cool, you know. Sorry to...
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, but it'll be Albert and myself riding the ship of state aground.
There's never been anything like this.
Later this half hour, and Spencer will update us on this blast that's hitting northern parts of the state. It will then hit southern parts of the state after that. And David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner in the 11 o'clock hour. Much to do, let's do it, baby! Yeah, I'm very, very excited, Albert, because
The Mark Thompson Show.
There is business to do. There is grim business in America, but we will get to that in a moment. Before we get to that, now I did want to ask you this, Albert, and I should have asked you this off the air, but I'll ask you on the air. We live out loud. Do you want to review the celebrity brackets in Mark's Madness when Spencer is here, or do you want to do it now, which is kind of the time that we normally do our Mark's Madness stuff? What would you like to do?
It's since I already know the update, I kind of want to do it now and not with Spencer, but I think it'll be better content with Spencer.
Okay. So we're going to put that off until Spencer joins us. That's what you're saying. And yes, Spencer will join us at 10:20.
I know Michael Snyder listens to the show. He's our Friday movie guy.
Yes, Michael.
He was very disappointed that we didn't update yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're going to make him wait 20 more minutes. So Michael,
it is true. Michael Snyder said, "How come you guys didn't update the celebrity thing yesterday?" So, what we'll do then, we play two drops off against each other. Is we'll play them off against each other, and we'll update the celebrity bracket. Everybody that you know, everybody you love, we'll do that when Spencer arrives. But right now, oh wait a minute! Oh my God, Albert, I've got too many.
Now,
I can't believe it!
Where's Chris
Mark's
when I need
Madness.
him? Chris is who I need. This hour, two drops play off against each other. Then we'll update you on what happened last night. You'll either vote for...
I got it. I can play the first one, Mark.
I got it. You'll either vote for... No, I don't have it.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Okay. Oh my God. Or
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Where are my weed smokers at?
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
It's either
Where are my weed smokers at?
or
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
This is a very, very tough round, Albert. This is where it really gets difficult.
Yeah, so these drops already advanced. So this is already the Sweet 16 in the tournament. So there's obviously a very iconic drop by Bill O'Reilly, and then
we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
But
it is probably the Mark Thompson drop.
Where my weed smokers at is in the DNA of this show.
Where are my weed smokers at?
It's like the founding father of the drops. You know,
you'll never find that drop anywhere else. By the way, we'll do it live. A lot of people have it.
Yes, you can.
Well, maybe you can. I don't think you can find
it. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Because where are my
weed smokers at?
That happened very organically. I saw it, heard it when it happened, and I said, I'm going to grab that. Back when we were at KGO. And
I think this is when you're watching the Jimmy Kimmel show, right?
That's exactly right. And that's Will Ferrell on Kimmel. But anyway, that's the origin of that drop. Now, Albert, if you would please, I wonder if you could tell me what happened, because the voting was going on through last night until midnight. What happened with the drops from yesterday, please?
So the Tubin apology, which is one of my favorite drops, did lose to That's Not Fake, That's Real. So Dr. Fauci gets to move on to the Sweet 16.
I see. Okay. So Fauci moves on. Then there was another one, too, wasn't there?
Yes, and we do have a statement right here from Joe Box. This is Joe Box. He did fall, and it was a Cinderella effort.
Thank you to all who voted for Joe Box says, in Mark's Madness. Sadly, our campaign was unable to overcome the support for the Who is Mark Thompson drop. I am conceding to Mark. Good day, sir.
I feel like he's trying to campaign his way to be your vice president, Mark.
I think he's well on his way.
Out, he didn't win, but he's like, you know what? I'm willing to help in the fight, in the big.
He is. He's nothing if not supportive of a gracious and smooth transition to the next round, which is more than.
And you actually did pick his drop to move on, which was, I thought it was the big brain move. I thought the chat would lift him up, but
yeah.
But which one of you, as Mark Thompson, survived?
I had Joe Box moving on. It was I've been really bad in predicting these things. So anyway, that is that. Many are participating. You can vote until midnight tonight. You vote in our community section in the channel. So if you just click on our icon, the little mug, it'll take you to our channel, and it'll say home, live, playlists, videos. Not in that order. It won't say that. But then community will be one of those choices. You click on community, and then you can vote. And you can also see where the voting is. Like, you can see the percentages. So Joe Box is just looking for 11,780 votes.
I just want to find 11,780, which is one more than we have.
I do
need 11,000.
Yeah, it is all I need, guys. I love what it is. Guys, I just need 11,000 votes. Come on. So we're looking for 11,780 subscribers. We're already at 10,500 and something. But, we're just a little engine that could. We're going to, keep on pushing. So that's what we do. We're completely a crowd-funded show right now. So thank you, everybody who is part of our Patreon and PayPal community. That's one of the ongoing ways to support this show. And, of course, you can contribute on PayPal and Patreon and here at YouTube with Super Sticker and Super Chat. So all of that going on. If you want to reach the show for any reason, maybe you're interested in a sponsorship, that'll work too. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. So are we clear? Let's do it. All right. Much to do.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, it's been a rough time in America yet again. Another mass shooting, massacre in Tennessee. I'm going to put it off until the bottom of the hour to really get into it. I want to show you and let you hear some of the audio from lawmakers. Some of the stuff will just shock you. But the way that you can A, politicize this, B, be so completely wedded to doing nothing is grotesque. This country has a death grip, almost literally, on these assault weapons and on guns generally. But I understand they're responsible gun owners, and I'm really not about trying to take everybody's guns away or any of that sort of thing. It's a foolish goal anyway. You can't take everybody's guns away. You're not going to. I mean, look, you can't even get responsible gun legislation passed in America. You're not going to take everybody's gun away. It's always amazing to me that becomes a political talking point, given the obvious bankruptcy it has of any legitimacy. It's never been articulated as a thing that any Democrat wants to do, and yet the Democrats are always smeared with that during election time. But that's the politics of it. Just because I'm on the politics of it, I want to round it out. I got into a big argument today with someone who was saying, I like to get my arguments started early, by the way. You should get your big arguments going as early as possible.
You wake up, get your coffee, get your argument in. Just
I
the normal
really,
activities in the morning.
Right. I just had one cup of coffee, and already I'm getting blasted. All I said was somebody was saying both parties are responsible for not getting the assault weapons ban passed. And they were saying, how ridiculous is that? It's all the GOP. The GOP is horrible. The GOP won't come over. Of course, that's true that the GOP won't come over. The GOP is reprehensible. The GOP, these legislators wear that pin, the assault weapon pin. I mean, it's repulsive, absolutely repulsive. But what I said was, but it's not completely wrong that both parties are responsible. And here is what I mean. The legislation was blocked by 2 Democratic senators, Manchin and Sinema. When you know that you can't get legislation passed, then you can say whatever you want. The same way that you can run on increasing the minimum wage or increasing home health care caps. It applies to anything if you know Congress won't pass it. Now, this, to be fair, I think the Democrats really had a chance to pass that legislation. But there was a significant roadblock in those 2 senators. So, are the Democrats on the right side of this issue? Of course. They're on the virtuous side of this issue. But what I'm saying is, when it actually came time to pass the legislation and they had control of the chamber, they couldn't get it done. Now, I'd much rather have them in control of the chamber than these, a party that frankly fetishizes these military weapons and takes us to more and more dangerous places. And we end up with the kinds of massacres that we're seeing in schools, in movie theaters, in shopping malls, at Walmart. You can't go anywhere. You literally can't go anywhere without looking around. I mean, don't you do it? I do. I look around like, who's wearing a heavy coat? We went to a street fair on Sunday. Courtney and I were walking through the street fair, and we saw these 2 guys, and they're dressed completely in black. And I said to her, those are either performers, which you think is what they are. They're stage performers because there's a bunch of stages set up at this big street fair, or they're mass shooters. One of the 2. Now, that's a grim bit of reference, but it's kind of true. I mean, I look around a crowd like that, and I look to see who's carrying, because so many people have guns. Anyway, that's the guy from Nashville, by the way, the GOP congressperson who actually represents that district in Nashville, he sent out a Christmas card. Maybe you've seen this by now. It hit on, I think it hit Huffington Post early yesterday, and I saw it, and I put it aside as something I wanted to share with you. Did I send it to you, Albert? I think I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Let me pull it up.
Okay. This is, let me put my credibility glasses on. Andy Ogles is the Tennessee congressperson who handles this district. And for his Christmas card, it's a picture of his family in front of a Christmas tree, and they're all holding assault rifles. Check this out. That is his Christmas card. This was posted by Fred Gutenberg. He has been someone who's been so active in trying to combat gun violence because his daughter Jamie was killed in the Parkland school shooting. But it's just a remarkable thing. This is last year's Christmas card from this dude. So we're a troubled nation when it comes to this stuff. And this is just one more case of it. And by the way, I know, Albert, we're going to wait. I almost feel like I'll wait on that. I'll wait on the Josh Hawley thing. Josh Hawley was on the Senate floor, and he's trying to make this about religion. He's saying this should be looked into as a hate crime.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that you could look at this school shooting, not be aghast at where we are, and somehow pivot to make it about religion, which is, to me, here's Josh Hawley today.
Lost their lives. And even as I'm on this floor now, Nashville police are releasing the body cam footage of the officers who responded with heroic speed and heroic courage to the deranged individual who made her way into that school and was executing students and teachers one by one. Those officers deserve to be praised. They deserve to be thanked. They deserve to be honored.
Right. And get to the part where you,
and for the lives that they saved.
Yeah.
Mr. President, we must also tell the truth about what happened yesterday in Nashville.
Here you go.
This murderous rampage, this taking of innocent life, was a horrific crime, but more specifically, it was a hate crime. A crime that, according to Nashville police, specifically targeted, that's their word, targeted, the members of this Christian community, the members of this religious institution.
Well, actually, the Nashville police haven't said that. I mean, clearly they targeted this specific school, and it was a Christian private school, but it wasn't targeting the Christian community per se.
Students, its educators, its employees. Let's be clear, Mr. President, federal law prohibits the targeting of violence against any American on the basis of religious affiliation or religious practice or religious belief. But
so you can see what's happening here. Look, I'm not saying, I mean, it's an odd thing just to draw attention to, but you have to skip over the assault weapon stuff to get to this. She had 2 assault rifles with her. I mean, that doesn't make your radar at all. It's a willful ignorance. So that's what's happening. That was Josh Hawley. He's a brutal guy. Just, no room for him at the table for me. So we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
In a moment, we'll be joined by Spencer Christian. We'll talk about what is happening. It's going to be an even blustier, is that bluster? It'll be a bluster-filled day in the Bay Area and northern and central parts of the state. And with it, of course, snowpack that might hit record levels. Let me put my credibility glasses back on again just to let you know that there are a couple of controversies that are cropping up in the Bay Area. After 10:30, I want to talk about the Alameda County prosecutor and this Pamela Price, who's the DA in Alameda County. Controversial figure. She's sort of in the Chesa Boudin progressive camp, and you can, after 10:30, see how some of the criticism is coming together against her. There's also been other progressive, if I will, and I like to say I'm progressive, but when it comes to law enforcement, as you know, I can be, I think, more of a law and order type person. And you can see how the progressive community is under fire when it comes to just that, law enforcement, for the way prosecutions are being handled and the way sentencing is being handled. One of those examples is in the city of San Francisco. There were 2 drug dealers. I don't know if you saw this, but I'll mention it to you now. And the lawyers are arguing in San Francisco court that the men were the victims of human trafficking and they shouldn't be held responsible for selling drugs because they were forced to do so under fear of violence. They have cartels and coyotes is the idea. That's the argument in court. So the people who shuttle them across the U.S. border, they charge them a lot of money. They're both from Honduras. And they say that they owe thousands of dollars to coyotes who threatened them and their families back home if they didn't pay their debts. I mean, law enforcement is saying, hey, this is a voluntary thing, selling drugs, and you will be prosecuted for it. So are they criminals or are they victims? There were mistrials in 2 cases involving these Hondurans. And prosecutors have decided not to retry either case. They've dismissed the charges. And so I ask you, is that appropriate? Or is that ridiculous? That is part of kind of what's being played out in Alameda County as well. I'm pausing here, Albert, because I'm just realizing, did I send Spencer the link?
I did. You did. I also sent him a new one. He's
Okay.
connecting from the ABC studio, so I'm helping him through it right now.
As long as good. As long as I didn't screw it up, I'm happy. Also, I might add this, just because I'm in the gun chunk, I guess, of our show. A wife has shot her husband dead on Facebook Live after they had a furious argument over housework. She's heard screaming, "I don't want to go to jail." This happened in Mississippi. Yeah, Khadijah Michelle Brown, she's 28, allegedly shot and killed her husband, Jeremy Brown, who's also 28. This just happened over the weekend. The woman is heard screaming, "I don't want to go to jail," and telling a child in the home, "Your daddy is dead." This is after the shot rings out over the video. The whole thing happened live on Facebook. Again, these are troubled households, probably not the first violence that's hit that house, but that violence comes to a brutal, brutal crescendo when you've got a gun in the house. Just crazy, really. And finally, well, I'm going to save that for law and disorder. I have that. Let me check the chat while I wait for Spencer. I hear it from Eric. GOP says, quote, "It's a mental health issue. We'll keep pumping firearms their way till we get around to dealing with mental health. So much money to make in the meantime." It's remarkable. And the amount of money that's soaked through the NRA and beyond is crazy. You have such political will in this country to change even background checks. It polls at over 80% among Republicans and Democrats. I think among Democrats, it's over 90%. It's over 80% among Republicans to put in background checks, stricter background checks. But Vilma writes, maybe we should name all the AK-47s after our congressman that do nothing about guns. Yeah, the Marjorie Green AK-47. Right. By the way, I got was it you, Vilma, who sent me a note? I made a point about somebody at the Trump rally wearing this bejeweled, sequined hat. It was like a real showy, but the big thing was it was sequins, and I said this Liberace Like Hat. And I think it was Vilma, I think it was you, Vilma, who wrote, Mark, Liberace didn't wear hats. That's what's so special about our audience. Down to the last reference. I didn't mean it was a Liberace-like hat that, a hat that of the sort that Liberace used to wear. What I meant was it was bejeweled like Liberace's stuff was. But it's funny, I then went on a deep dive to tried to find Liberace wearing a hat. And I literally, Vilma's right, couldn't find any picture of Liberace wearing a hat. I had to go all the way back to like the 60s or might have been late 50s to find him wearing a hat. So, good grab, Vilma. Albert, what is happening with Spencer Christian, please?
He's still struggling to connect.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I don't know about that. But it is convenient to blame Albert.
Yeah, I'm trying to find other avenues to get him on, but
okay. Sounds like yeah. Well, in the meantime, let me give you some job news, which is sadly not super great. The overall job numbers are good. Yeah, but Disney layoffs are going to start this week. About 7,000 people at Disney are going to lose their job. That's a lot of people. You add that to the world of Meta and Twitter and the way the technology sector has constricted so substantially. In a memo to employees, just yesterday, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, remember Bob Iger? He did the Larry King thing. He did the Richard Burton doubleback. Yeah, he did the Elliot Gould doubleback. They all did that with marriages. They got divorced. Then they went on. Then they doubled back and they got married again. That's what Bob Iger did. He left Disney, got the big exit package, everything. Bye-bye, see you on the beach in Malibu. Then they said, whoa, wait a minute, come back. And now he's back as CEO. Well, you can see the plan. It's to trim at Disney. And so yesterday in this memo, he said the company will now begin the process of notifying staff. 2 more rounds of cuts are planned in the next couple of months. They're going to shed 7,000 jobs as the company restructures around 3 core divisions: Disney Entertainment, ESPN, Parks, Experiences, and Products. The cuts are, quote, necessary for creating a more effective, coordinated, and streamlined approach to our business. So that's what's happening at Disney. The other place that you're seeing, I think, yet more evidence of layoffs to come is in the area of AI. There is more and more evidence that AI is going to affect all of us, regardless of what we do. Up to 80% of U.S. jobs could be impacted by ChatGPT like AI in the coming years.
Can you hear me, Spencer?
No, I hear you, though, Albert.
Oh, sorry. Let me go back.
The warning comes from an official study by OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, and the University of Pennsylvania. They found that about 15% of all worker tasks could be completed significantly faster by AI with the same level of quality. Occupations with the highest exposure. What are the occupations with the highest exposure when it comes to AI? I'll wait. The highest exposure to AI replacement. Politics, says Tom. YouTube show host says, very nice. I get it. Yeah, I liked it.
Mark Thompson.
Yeah, I liked it. Graphic designers, software programmers, clergy, says Brian. News reporters, customer service, says Russ. Yeah, already happening. All right, the answer is interpreters and translators. Yeah, they are the most exposed. The amount of exposure that interpreters and translators experience to AI is 76.5%. That is to say, I guess that percentage of that industry could be replaced by AI. Survey researchers, poets, lyricists, and creative writers are next. Animal scientists, public relations specialists. You know, when it comes to PR, a lot of it is sending correspondences, putting together one sheets, with descriptions of something. That stuff can be done by AI increasingly, they're finding. Leonard says George Santos can be replaced. Yeah.
All right, Mark, can we let's just break the commercial here, and then I'll try to get you connected with Spencer so we can have him on for a couple minutes.
All right, Albert, it sounds like a decent enough plan. We'll take a break. Let me just round this out because I've in the last 20 seconds. Survey researchers, writers and authors, interpreters and translators, PR specialists, animal scientists. These will all be blockchain engineers, mathematicians, 100% of you, it is suggested, can be replaced by AI. Accountants and auditors, 100% of you can be replaced, it says. News analysts, reporters, and journalists, 100% of you can be replaced. You know, that's the grim reality. Smash the like button while I'm still here.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show. Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
I hope this is working on the, is this working for us, Albert? Are you able to, I see Spencer. The audience can hear Spencer. Is that right, Albert? I believe so. And you can hear me. This is the Mark Thompson Show. We want to get Spencer Christian on, and we just had some trouble because he's at ABC 7. Albert, is the audience able to hear him, though, right now? I'm not sure they are. I mean, I'm
not sure. I can't hear him right now. So, Spencer, do you want to try to...
No, let me just see if there's not a way to... Hold on a second, Spencer Christian. Let me just see if I can take... this is exciting to be able to have him on. And yet I am... let's see. I need to... one second. Everything's going to be fine, everyone. Please. Please... Does that work, Albert, when I'm doing that? Can you hear me now with Spencer?
If I were on my home computer?
Yeah.
Oh, we could hear him. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Thank you. Hold your applause till the... Oh, thank you. Okay. Spencer, I'm glad we went to some added trouble. And now I say we, I mean you went through a lot of added trouble to be with us. Thank you. Tell us what's happening, though. This is kind of a big deal, which is why I wanted to get you on.
It is, Mark. So the rain that's falling in the Bay Area right now is beginning to reach its peak of intensity, and it'll be at this peak of intensity until about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So the heaviest rain is falling right now and will be with us for a few hours. We already have strong wind gusts approaching 50 miles an hour down here at the surface, even higher up in the higher elevations. And that wind gusty pattern will be with us also until probably mid-afternoon, early to mid-afternoon before it starts to taper off. So that's the kind of storm we have on our 5-point ranking system here on the exclusive ABC 7 storm impact scale. This is a level 2 storm. So it's a moderately strong storm, just slightly weaker than the big one we had last week.
So I hate to always skip ahead to after, but
yeah,
because this is particularly when it comes to the wind, that's what concerned me about this, because we've had so many power outages and issues, related to the winds. After this, so 2 o'clock today, things start to improve.
Yes.
What does the horizon show? I mean, is there another one after this?
Yeah, I can tell you. So between about, let's say after 2 p.m., going into the late afternoon and early evening, which is, of course, commuting time again, The winds will be diminishing significantly. The rain will be easing up a bit, but there'll still be pockets of steady showers going into the nighttime hours and overnight into tomorrow. Tomorrow will be one of those days where we have scattered showers, little breaks of sunshine here and there, but occasionally there could be a brief downpour. But in terms of steady, continuous rain, heavy rain, that's all going to break up, fall apart by the late afternoon.
And then does the atmosphere stabilize for many days, or is it still a little bit of...
Oh, that's a good question. So after tomorrow, the atmosphere will stabilize for about 2 days, Thursday and Friday. It'll still be a bit unstable tomorrow, even with the scattered showers. We might see hear a clap of thunder or see a flash of lightning. But Thursday and Friday are likely to be mostly sunny, dry days. But then the weekend will bring us another wave of light rain, probably much less intense than the storm we're having right now, but wet nonetheless, with occasional gusts, supersaturated soil. So even a weaker storm over the weekend could result in some problems like trees blowing down or power outages or localized flooding.
Now I must ask you, Albert, my last minute with Spencer Christian, are you aware of where you stand in Mark's Madness and where we all stand? I've had a very rough run, Spencer. I mean,
I'm not aware of where I stand.
All right, I'm sadly I am aware of where I stand, and here it is. These are the results so far.
I can't believe it! Mark's Madness
in the celebrity bracket, where you are and I am.
Yeah.
Michael Snyder, who is our movie reviewer, is 13-3. He is the squad leader along with John Daly.
Wow.
The former producer. Michael Shore is 12-4. That's where I am too. Owl is 11-5. The commish, Albert, is 11-5, and you then follow at 9-7. And Brett Burkhart picks up the rear at 7-9. So not awful. And there is still time. Now, does Spencer have a route, Commissioner, to finishing in the, I don't want to say winner's circle, but to improve that record? Does he have a route to that?
I'll have to go check with my bracketologist,
I hope
but
then
I also will confirm that he'll do better than Brett.
This would be, yeah. What's that, Spencer? What?
I said if not, I'll be pulling up the rear like Brett is.
Yes, yeah. You don't want to. Well, Brett will always make you look good. I mean, he'll always be doing worse than you're doing, so you don't need to worry. But I would say that Spencer's life has been full of such great triumphs. It would be sad to see him fall in our celebrity bracket to the bottom. So I'm counting. But again, all of us are struggling now. This is where the going gets tough. We love that you're part of things. And listen, kidding aside, great to spend some time with us today. I know things are busy over there, so thank you.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Spencer Christian. We'll talk soon.
See you soon. Okay.
Yeah, he's our guy. Love my Spencer Christian, everybody. Really do.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Albert, it is true that I thought that worked. Did it?
That
eventually?
We somehow MacGyvered that situation. It didn't look too great, but all we needed was we're radio people, Mark. So as long as we get the audio, that's a win in our books.
The audio is all we need cleanly. And that was great. And the audience loves Spencer. So that's a good little backdoor way to make it happen too, Albert. I might keep that in mind for the future,
Especially if it's like on your computer, Mark, you have a lot of power from your setup. I know it rarely works and it always messes with you, but I think there's a lot of possibilities we could have.
No.
Do you know who I am?
That's right.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Exactly. I have a lot of power. Exactly. Thank you for finally realizing that. Yeah.
But it is surprising to see Brett. We'll revisit this celebrity bracket. Brett, obviously he's a lot busier now. He's at KCBS, but when I was reviewing the brackets, I was kind of disappointed to see Brett was at 7-9. But I think Brett is a choose with his heart type of person.
Yeah, although early on he was doing okay in the first couple of showdowns, and we had Brett on. We'll have him on again. And he was saying that he looked at what had done well in the past, which is usually a good general marker. The problem is it starts to let you down. But he had done well because he was looking at past performance. I started looking at past performance, went with past performance, and like porn stars let me down. Didn't do well this year. So, anyway, let me get rid of this, and there you go. I don't know. I'm getting.
You might be getting double audio, so you should probably leave that call.
Yeah. So there you go. Video keeps going black, but hear audio. Yay, audio. Yay, Spencer. Nice little storm here. When are we going to talk about the trans shooter? Well, we did speak about. We spoke about the AR situation, the assault rifle situation. We also spoke about the general political disposition in America toward these things. But I didn't speak about this specific shooting. I'd be happy to visit it now. Didn't I send you a piece on it, Albert, or not? Maybe I thought I was.
Yep, I have it right here.
Yeah, let's run that, and then I'll jump on and give you some thoughts.
And with yet another shooting, the debate over gun control continues. While the president today made another plea for reform, a retired local federal agent believes the situation is more complicated than that. Lydia Esparra has more.
As police continue to investigate the latest school shooting in Nashville, the conversation for gun control grows louder and more controversial. John Kilnap, a gun expert, served nearly 30 years with the ATF.
I'm not pro-gun, I'm not anti-gun. What I'm for is gun ownership responsible.
Kilnap puts the responsibility on the parents who have guns in the home. He says most shootings happen when a child obtains a gun a parent didn't properly store. But in the case of the Nashville
what's the guy's
shooter,
name? Kilnap is his name?
A 28-year-old.
Is that right, Albert?
Well,
go back for a second. What is the guy's name? It's just kind of.
In the case of the Nashville shooter, the shooter,
had to go back farther,
a 28-year-old.
Sorry.
Most shootings happen when a
now
child
a little further, and then you got it.
A
And I probably shouldn't have said anything, but there you go. Here we go.
Gun expert served nearly 30 years.
All right, here we are.
Louder and more controversial. John Kilnap, a gun expert,
Yep,
served
Kilnap.
nearly 30 years with the ATF.
I'm not pro-gun, I'm not anti-gun. What I'm for is gun ownership responsible.
Kilnap puts the
He's not wrong about
responsibility
that.
on the parents who have guns in the home. He says most shootings happen when a child obtains a gun a parent didn't properly store. But in the case of the Nashville shooter, the shooter, a 28-year-old transgender woman, obtained at least 2 of the weapons legally.
Yeah.
Kilnap says intense background checks are a necessity, but he believes that conversation seems to be fading.
No, it's fallen by the wayside. People don't want to hear it anymore because they fall back on the Constitution thinking that the government, whether that's ATF, the FBI, or whatever, wants to take away the guns. That's not the case.
President Joe Biden, a longtime supporter of gun control, once again said this.
So I call on Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban. It's about time that we began to make some more progress, but there's more to learn. But I just wanted to send my concern and hearts out to so many parents out there.
Students, teachers, and administrators being killed by gun violence. The president and Kilnap both agree it's out of control.
The gun violence of today has reached a level that this country has never seen.
Now, Mike DeWine, Ohio's governor, has a proposal on
the president.
That's the case. Yeah. All right. Look, as I say, we've addressed a lot of this, but I wanted you to hear that. He's right about responsible gun ownership and locking up guns and the 6-year-old who shoots the teacher and, who should be held responsible for that. Some of that stuff we've talked about here on this program and will continue to be talked about. It wouldn't have mattered in this case, right? Those 2 guns were, as noted in that piece, legally acquired. So, and the trans part of this, and you're seeing the headlines, trans shooter. In fact, even the question in the chat was, when are you going to talk about the trans shooter? I don't see it yet germane to what's going on here. I really don't. And I'm not just trying to be a lib, Tell me how it's germane, and I will address it. But it's just not. Germane is a ding word. I just see it as one more thing you can tag the shooter with. There's no way to protect schools from shooters, says Karen. Shooters will always find a way to accomplish their mission. Why it is considered relevant that the shooter was a transgender, I don't know. Exactly. It's really not relevant. It's one more fact. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be included, just the way you might include any number of things, ethnicity, age, whatever. But it's not germane to motive, and so, that we know of yet. And so I would say to refer to the person as a trans shooter is tone deaf. It would be like saying, the Latino shooter. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, was it related to the person being Latino? Usually it's what? A white shooter. Yeah. But increasingly, everybody's getting in on the action in America. So, female to male trans from Enid often take testosterone, might be a factor in aggression. Okay. That's a fair point that it's a factor in aggression, but how many trans people, and however, the appropriate way to refer to the entire process is, and I apologize, but but how many of them take those testosterons, end up opening fire on some school? The percentage is, close to zero, right? So, again, it's important to put the breadcrumbs clearly in some coherent path, I guess. But I'm just saying, as yet, we don't know that the trans part of things, the testosterone, aggression, whatever, is related to what happened here. We just don't know. Yeah, it's what Huge in Japan is saying. Aggression doesn't equate to mass murder. But again, Randy says the same thing. I've just addressed this. If the person is taking testosterone because of being trans, then it is a factor. No, it's not a factor. It's not any more a factor than you being a man is a factor. And your natural aggression is a factor in anything you do. So, again, it's, we don't have all the info yet. However, I also read at one point it was a former student. Yeah. Could the fact that religion is coming out against transgender people and it was a religious school be pertinent? Honestly, Lori's comment there is insightful in that might be a more decent lead as to the reasons that this person opened fire. Again, though, why do you open fire on the kids? They're not responsible for anything. One of the administrators who was killed is the head of the school. But the idea that you would open fire on these children. Now I'm going to say something that you may not like. And I've said it before, and I've said it on KGO, and I've said it whenever we deal with these mass shootings, and it's controversial, but I just feel strongly that what has happened in this country is we've sanitized this news the same way we sanitize war. The ugliness, the grotesque nature of these incidents, they're dry cleaned for the audience. You see a yellow tape up, and you see a guy like Jim Avila, or a reporter, a network reporter standing out front, or a local reporter, whatever. You see journalists talking about what happened inside. You see police chiefs, and you see other first responders speaking about what happened inside. The reason that they don't show you the actual carnage is because there is a disgusting quality to doing that. It's almost you can call it bad taste, you can call it, right? But because we don't see it, I think the real grim nature of what we are okay with in this culture is lost. The Sandy Hook massacre, if you'd actually seen those poor souls, those little kids, after that shooting, it's probably something you'd be unable to look at. That's what this is. And so I would suggest that America needs to be riveted by the grotesque quality of what we are okay with. And for that reason, I think you need to see it. Because apparently sanitizing it ain't working. And we end up with thoughts and prayers and a bunch of political BS. This country stands alone in this stuff, right? It's horrifying. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. I mean, if this were COVID doing this, we try to find a vaccine or whatever, right? But here we completely bow to political pressure. It's absolutely awful. So, all right.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You can send your angry letters to themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. That's my address, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. By the way, that's also where you can inquire as to sponsorship opportunities. We're completely crowdfunded now. Steve Moskowitz has run his course as a sponsor. We loved having him on. But now without a sponsor, we're completely crowdfunded. So we're dependent on you for your contributions. Thank you for helping to sustain this show. It is not easy. We have a payroll to meet. We have expenses to handle. And it's funny, I was talking to someone yesterday about how we could do certain outreach to get word of the show out, right? We were talking to Bean about it on Facebook, and that costs money, even little amounts of money, something that is only enabled if we get the funding from the crowd. So very cool for those of you who have joined us there. But themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. If you have a service or you have a business, particularly in the Bay Area, we have such a strong presence there, and you just want to get the name of your company out, it might be a really great opportunity for you to land with both feet. We'll put you alongside Kim's news, and that way when she reads it, she'll talk about your sponsorship and talk about your business. So,
it'd be cool to sponsor the Florida segment, maybe.
That's a great suggestion, Commissioner. Yes, the Florida segment, for real. Well, I have news for coffee drinkers, and I am a massive coffee drinker. So I want you to know it's not like I feel you, coffee drinkers. That's all I'm trying to say. And then we'll update the voting for this hour, Albert, after the coffee story. Can I do that?
That sounds good.
All right.
I feel like this is one of those stories that we all want to hear.
Yeah. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Coffee drinkers get more in the way of steps than those who don't drink coffee. Wait a minute. Let me finish.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It's one of the most consumed beverages worldwide. Coffee drinkers do get more steps. They are more active. But they likely are at higher risk for one type of heart palpitation.
What?
Yes. The big picture finding, this is a quote from the lead cardiologist and professor of medicine at UC San Francisco. The big picture finding is that there isn't just one single health-related consequence of consuming coffee, but that the reality is more complicated than that. No. The great majority of research on the topic has been observational, meaning we just look and see what happens to people who do and don't drink coffee, which is profoundly limiting by the possibility that there might be some other characteristic that is driving whether someone happens to drink coffee.
This sounds like a study that I would conduct, we're just going to watch them and see what happens. And then we're going to this is what we saw just in the past 30 minutes.
What's your process, doctor? Well, we just sit around and we watch kind of.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
I love when these stories come out, Mark, because I know you love them too. It's like 85% of wine drinkers will live longer.
Right.
Or people who drink coffee are like this, so it's nice to see these stories.
Coffee
really
seems to
our vices,
Yes, coffee seems to affect the heart, they say. Researchers found no evidence of a significant relationship between coffee consumption and premature atrial contractions. They're very common. Early heartbeats that we all experience arising from the top chambers of the heart. People with more premature atrial contractions are at higher risk of developing a very clinically significant heart rhythm disturbance. Oh, atrial fibrillation.
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
Yes. Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
There's never been anything like this.
Drinking more than 1 cup a day resulted in about a 50% higher incidence of premature ventricular contractions. So, days with no coffee intake didn't seem to reflect that. So,
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
These heartbeats arise from the lower chambers of the heart. This provides some compelling evidence that experimenting with going off coffee might be worthwhile in those individuals who experience bothersome palpitations related to PVCs, according to the doctor.
Dr. Emil Schaffhausen.
Right, okay.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, Albert, tell me, where do we sit in Mark's Madness? I must know this hour. It's
Mark's Madness.
It's Bill O'Reilly. The magic of Bill O'Reilly.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Going up against...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Oh, my gosh. Isn't that right? Are those two, right?
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Only one goes to the next round. You can vote until midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel. And you can vote right now in the chat. And let's check with the commissioner. Commissioner, who is ahead? I'm wondering.
There's a reason this place is fun. No, there's a reason why Where My Weed Smokers At was the overall #1 seed, and it's a runaway. It's 80% right now.
Yeah!
Where are my weed smokers at?
Come on, baby. Loving it.
Finally, a 1 seed gets to win in the tournament, unlike the men's March Madness.
I know. It's exactly like...
Damn, I'm on the phone.
I just really don't know. You can't count on too many things these days, but... one of the things you can count on, apparently, is the weed smokers in our competition. So 2 more upcoming. Full hour ahead, David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, joins. We'll talk about a couple of things. I'll touch on the gun violence with David and the political realities, which seem obvious, but nonetheless, I want to check off with him. And I also want to, by the way, thank you, all of you, super stickers and super chatters. Really appreciate the contributions. As I've told you, we are completely crowdfunded, so without the crowdfunding, we have nothing. I'll acknowledge you specifically in the next hour as well. I also want to talk to David about the overreach of the Justice Department. You have that audio, right, Albert? The audio from Adam Schiff. Remember, I sent it to you a few days ago? He was, okay. In testimony,
yeah, you sent it just for David Cay Johnston.
Just for David Cay Johnston. I'll play you this audio, and you can see the hypocrisy associated with doing an investigation on the weaponizing of the Justice Department while the last administration was focused on weaponizing the Justice Department. And we show the math, and we'll do that after 11 o'clock. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Need those likes. I don't even know why we need them, but they're free.
Smash it
why not?
With your iron rod.
Just smash it. Yeah. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Speaking of the weed smokers.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
God bless America. The end.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Thompson, party of 4.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
I need a witness.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
seriously? What the? Why are you yelling?
Tell your little friends the dreams do come true. Tell your little friends the dreams do come true.
What up, everybody? What up, what up, what up? It is it's a pleasure to be with you today. We've got David Cay Johnston on deck. And Commish, I need to look. It's kind of exciting. We're right in the middle of March Madness. We do it every March to coincide with March Madness. We have our own drops go up against each other. Only one can ascend to the championship. And I'm looking to see, okay. I want to then do this quickly because I want to get to David Cay Johnston. Can I do that, Albert? Can we do it quickly?
Unfortunately, you do have to do it. I don't like one of the matchups, so I'm pulling for one of these drops to move on.
I see. Yeah, my bracket is pretty well done, but this is Mark's Madness.
Mark's Madness.
Only one drop advances. You can vote until midnight tonight on our YouTube channel under Community. You can either vote for...
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Yeah, that.
That's a great drop.
Or...
Whoever is reducing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
You either vote for...
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Or...
Whoever is reducing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
You have till midnight. You can also vote right now in the chat, and we'll update the voting at the end of this hour.
We're all
Albert,
Casey
of course,
Kasem fans here. You know,
he doesn't like
Casey.
He doesn't like
whoever is producing this thing
producer
has
drop
no idea what they're doing
because it's disparaging to the producer. I get it, but Albert, you have to drink your medicine if it loses. Or moves on, I should say, if Casey loses to you.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Producer might win. Producer, no idea, might win. Anyway, they do this to me all the time, or producer, no idea. Vote until midnight. This guy's a Pulitzer Prize winner. It's such an exciting fact that we have him on Tuesdays. You've seen him everywhere. You've read him everywhere. He's one of the co-founders of DC Report, singular, dcreport.org. I've read his books, and as I've told you before, you can needle drop them. You can crack them open anywhere, and it's an unreal, I think, laying bare of the wealthiest Americans and how the system really favors them with showing the math, the specifics. And, of course, he's a Trumpologist, so if you check out his Trump books, you'll learn all about Donald Trump's life, and you'll see how we ended up where we are. He's David Cay Johnston, everyone. Hi, David.
Hello, Mark.
David, I want to touch on the gun violence because we talked a lot about it in the last hour, and what is the political logjam that apparently results in any effort, even when the Democrats controlled both houses, couldn't quite get across the finish line on any kind of meaningful gun control.
It's astonishing that in round numbers, depending on how you ask the question, 80 to 90% of Americans would ban assault weapons, prevent the sale of their ammunition, which over time will diminish their usefulness and tax the ammunition. And yet Congress can't get anything done. It is absolutely astonishing. And at the core of this is that you remember when we used to hear all these complaints about activist judges from the Republicans? Well, activist judges appointed by Donald Trump and George W. Bush have edited out of our Constitution the opening words of the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia. They just made that disappear. And I probably have mentioned this on your show before, but the Second Amendment is about arms, not guns, arms. So a nuclear weapon is an arm. If we're going to be absolutists, I want a nuclear weapon in my backpack because they build them in a size you can put in a backpack, and by golly, nobody's going to mess with me as soon as I get one of those. One of the things I want to point out, as somebody who's written a lot about police shootings in the past, especially when I was investigating the LAPD in the early 1980s, I was the first journalist to seriously take apart the LAPD. The officers here did the right thing. This wasn't Uvalde where they stood around for an hour while people were bleeding to death because they were afraid. They went right in, confronted the shooter. She, I'm sure we're going to find out, pointed a gun at him and they took her out. And much as I dislike extrajudicial killings, that's the kind of situation where they're going to happen. They, if nothing else can be done, should happen. But these cops did what they get paid to do. One of the things I thought a lot about when I was in my teens and wanted to become a cop and an LAPD homicide detective was, after reading up on policing, was that there are occasions when it's your duty to die if you're a cop, to protect the lives of other people. And I thought it weighed on me a lot. I thought about that a lot. When I took, with no notice, the LAPD's combat training, it turned out that, which all the cops who go up to take it were told in advance, here's what's going to happen. I had no idea. The one that I took, you have to let your partner die to score. And you know, I got an almost perfect score, 98 or 99 out of 100, and 3 shots, all fatal, which stunned the cops, who figured they brought me up there and had a video camera hidden, came out after I got there, because they thought, you know, I shoot up the, you know, who knows, the woman
Right.
pushing her baby or something. They had no idea that I had understood how to do these things. But this shooting in Tennessee, the real underlying problem is what you started off with. How is it that we're the only country in the world where this keeps happening again and again and again? There are examples of, you know, a shooting here or one every 10 years. But here, they're like every other day, we have a mass shooting. And I'm just completely heartbroken over the lack of political will to deal with this issue.
Well, and the pretzel logic that goes on to avoid speaking about the real problem, the proliferation of these weapons, you know. So you talk about video games, you talk about mental illness, as though video games and mental illness don't exist in other countries, you know.
Right. Well, and the issue here is not having guns per se, but the rules that we're adopting now, you're beginning to see police departments speak out the way they did in the 80s and saying open carry and concealed carry pose real problems for cops. You get a call to go somewhere and you meet somebody with a gun, you don't know who they are or what they are, and they could tell you, oh no, I'm here to catch the shooter. They're actually the shooter. This is just foolish. When I owned guns, when I was young in California, you could transport your gun in a car, but the gun had to be either in a locked container or in the trunk of your car, which was locked. You couldn't carry it in the passenger compartment. And ammunition, if I recall correctly, had to also be, it couldn't be in the gun, and it had to be in a separate place. And we're not requiring any kind of qualifications to do this. I mean, you have to pass a test to get a driver's license, but not to buy a military-style assault rifle. And the cowardice of our political class here is just the shame of the country, and this will continue to happen. I wrote a column when the Newtown shooting occurred, which was 10 years ago, if I recall, and my wife persuaded me not to publish it. She said, you know, if what you wrote were to then happen, this would be horrible. It was a mistake. I usually listen to my wife. On this one, I should have said, sorry, honey. And the column was that this was a whole classroom that was shot up, all these little first graders and 6 teachers. And I said, look, if a gunman goes into a high school or a regular school and kills all of the students there and the faculty, 1,600 people, we're not going to get laws to address this because our politicians are so afraid that they will poke the bear and there will be an uprising to get rid of them. And this is just horrible.
It is so true, though, that they exist in a way just to maintain that power. And so you're right. They don't want to touch. That's become a third rail for them. You know, it
fear
used to be
fear of losing power or losing in a primary. And I mean, there are politicians who've been very straightforward and clean about this, but they're ones who have districts where they have absolutely zero fear. The minute you get into a district, well, maybe the NRA would raise enough money to get rid of me. These people have rubber spines or jelly spines.
Yeah, and it's interesting, David, just you touched on this, and then I'm going to move on to the Justice Department and the weaponization, and I have a piece of audio I want you to hear. But it's interesting because the NRA got mentioned in your last comment. I know, as do you, that the NRA has got money problems, right? They've bankrupted, and we've seen the corruption, right, which has led to some of that those money problems. They've siphoned off a bunch of that money for personal use at the top, blah blah blah. So their ability to fund races has been impacted, but I think it's now in the American DNA, politically, I'm talking about, and I'm asking you, I guess. So the NRA doesn't even need to flood a lot of these races with money. The gun thing has become a point of political pride. That's why you see so many Christmas cards with people with assault rifles, and I'm talking about politicians, political ads where they're shooting up the landscape. It's craziness, but it's not funded by the NRA purely anymore.
Well, let's remember two things: that the NRA used to be an organization of hunters and sport shooters. It's now a lobbying arm of the manufacturing industry for guns. That's the first and most important thing to understand. The second thing to understand is they can be defeated. When I was a kid, litter was everywhere. I can just drive down the road. People just threw things out the window. There's a great scene in the Mad Men where the family of Don Draper goes and has a picnic on the side of the road, and they just leave everything. We solved that problem. We have very little litter in this country anymore. We can solve this problem, but it requires leadership. And how did we solve the problem with litter? Lady Bird Johnson and her husband. And then they got a whole lot of people behind them. And so if there's something to be critical of Joe Biden about, and there are lots of things to be critical about, this is a key one, because he keeps saying over and over, we need Congress to do something. There are steps he can take, and he should take. And I think there's not a lot of political gain in his view by getting tougher about this. But what better issue to get tough about? And especially this ridiculous idea that with no training or knowledge, you can walk around open carry a loaded gun. There are lots of YouTube videos or reels or TikToks that'll show you people shopping in grocery stores and they've got an AK-47 slung over the back. What are they afraid of? The clerk? and most of this is motivated, let's be frank, by racism, by making sure that people of color, especially black people, know their place, by people who will tell you, I'm not a racist, and they are. The carrying of the gun tells you they are.
Well, I also think it's motivated by this machismo. It's this displaced machismo. It's almost like driving a Hummer. You know what I mean? You want to.
Oh, yeah.
It's an assertion of masculinity. It's become this thing. Or power, because I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, they have the commercials where they're holding the assault rifles, and it's another level of insanity. And it now has all of these flavors in it. I want to ask you, Albert, can you, if you would, prep that video? This is related to the investigation of the Justice Department that's going on. It's a GOP investigation in the House, of course, that is really designed to focus, again, in quotes, on the weaponization of the Justice Department by the Democrats, by the Biden administration, by the J6 committee. And the thing that's overlooked, of course, is what was happening in the last administration. And so it was kind of laid out well by Adam Schiff. I thought, not Adam Schiff, by, who was it? He went to my high school.
Raskin, Jamie Raskin.
Yeah, Jamie Raskin, thank you.
Who teaches constitutional law at the University of Maryland or Baltimore Law School.
He's just terrific and a brilliant guy. And just listen a little bit of the comment, please, on the other side. Go ahead.
Michael Cohen, the president's former lawyer and confidant for many years. In August 2018, he pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations over large hush money payments he arranged before the 2016 election to keep porn star Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal from talking about sexual affairs they had with Donald Trump. You guys remember this one? Well, after Barr became Attorney General in February of 2019, he worked to kill further investigations related to those payoffs and suggested that Mr. Cohen's conviction on campaign finance charges itself be reversed, even though 6 months had already passed since Cohen had entered a guilty plea. Amazingly, after Cohen was in prison for a year and then being transferred out of prison to home confinement during COVID-19, Barr and the DOJ intervened to block his transfer because Cohen would not immediately accept as a condition of his ankle bracelet home confinement not to engage in First Amendment activities, specifically writing and publishing a book about Donald Trump or saying anything in public on TV or in the social media about Donald Trump. Cohen had already been home for 2 weeks when this unconstitutional demand from DOJ appeared, and when he and his attorney dared to ask questions about it, 3 federal marshals showed up with handcuffs and shackles, and he was returned to the Otisville Correctional Institute. There he spent 16 days in solitary confinement before they were able to get his case before a federal district judge, who immediately found that Barr's purpose, quote, in transferring Cohen from release on furlough and home confinement back to custody was retaliatory in response to Cohen desiring to exercise his First Amendment rights to publish a book critical of the president and to discuss the book on social media. Can you think of a more egregious example of weaponizing the Department of Justice for nakedly political purposes than imprisoning and putting in solitary confinement the president's own former lawyer simply because he wanted to exercise his First Amendment rights?
There you go. I mean, I think I wanted David to hear that. I just thought it was a great summary of something that we knew about in the last administration. Please go ahead.
Well, this is just a textbook example of the executive, the president, violating the First Amendment. Congress shall pass no law. And this was, without question, an effort to punish this man for writing a book. Now, of course, Donald Trump wants a law passed that says you can't write anything about me that I don't approve of. He said that repeatedly. This is what we're seeing going on in Israel with these huge demonstrations in the streets. And Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been indicted, has all sorts of criminal liability problems. He's trying to get a law passed that would allow him to basically stymie any investigation of himself or any of his friends. That's not a democracy. That's MBS's Saudi Arabia. That's Putin's Russia. That is not a democracy. And, you know, when I grew up, the Republicans were very strong on these things. They've completely morphed into this strange cult. And the people who aren't Trumpers, they haven't stepped forward. They're not willing to stand up and do the right thing. But down the road we're going, if Donald were to manage to get back into the White House, and by the way, he can run from prison. He can be president from prison. Eugene V. Debs got over 900,000 votes for president in 1920 when he was in prison for inciting insurrection, seditious insurrection against the government. And there are some people who think, well, Trump should be charged with sedition because of January 6th. Well, the Constitution doesn't say you can't run for president or be president if you're convicted of that. I could see this Supreme Court saying, well, he was convicted of trying to overthrow the government, but that doesn't stop him from being president because it's not in the Constitution. So this is a political matter. And hopefully the American people are smarter than that. They're going to not want to have another round with this guy who I've known for 35 years, who's been a criminal his whole life, who believes that he should run the whole world because nobody else is qualified, and who doesn't care a whit about the Constitution. It's all about him. He doesn't even know what's in the Constitution.
Well, his rally was the first rally of his campaign. It was all about grievance. It was really a rerun. I was saying on the air that it was sort of he's playing the same tune from 2020,
He is, and so are journalists doing the same fundamental mistakes. I have been looking with my daughter, Amy, who does research for me, through every story we can find, big papers, little papers, local places in Texas, TV, radio, and they all say thousands of people went to the rally. Well, it looks to me like it's a few thousand people, but none of them did the work of, well, let's find out how many people are there. No editor said, oh, I want to send 3 reporters there early, and they're going to have little clickers in their hand, the way they count people. Nobody did that. And so they're playing the game Trump wants played. And we need to stop this. This is not about a horse race. politics reporters who call themselves political reporters, politics reporters get rewarded for covering the horse race. No, we need them in this coming election to cover the policy, and they won't be able to do it. Just trust me, I know enough of them on the national level. They won't be able to do it, with a few exceptions, and neither will their editors. So we need to have the people on the policy side be involved in this. And I'm highly critical of my former newspaper, the New York Times. It's been, just right there at the head of the pack, doing brilliant stories about other things, but not covering the race as a issue of the death or life of democracy by a guy who's very clear. He wants to be our dictator. He wants to be president for life. He says it.
Well, and that's part of what he was doing with the weaponization of the Justice Department, which is where we started this conversation. I mean, this Justice Department will handle my grievances and will go after those who speak up against me. As you say, it's very MBS.
And he promised retribution. If you elect me, I'm going to seek retribution. And the other group, by the way, that needs to be called out here are these ministers who support Trump. Because Donald Trump, in his book Think Big, spent 6 pages denouncing Christians. He called them fools, idiots, schmucks, and a lot more. And he has said repeatedly, including at the National Prayer Breakfast during his last year in office, that his life philosophy is one word: revenge. Well, Christianity rejects revenge. It's crystal clear. If you think you're a Christian and you don't know that revenge is denied to you if you want to be a Christian, then you're not a Christian. You don't know what you're talking about. And Trump needs to be gone after. The ministers backing him need to be gone after. And I notice you've got on our little screen here, Trump is pure gold for the media. Understand something, Mr. Krause. That's not an accurate statement. There is the Les Moonves comment when he ran CBS that people stayed and kept watching. It's true for television that Trump is a moneymaker, but the revenues and the advertising of the New York Times, the Washington Post, the AP, which doesn't have ads, it's supported by news organizations, they're not affected one bit by this. You don't think you don't think that Trump and his rallies are clickbait, and they do bring boys to the yard, as they say, don't you think, David? When there's an issue of great concern, more people pay attention to the news. I mean, generally I'll agree with that, but the financial model of particularly newspapers don't sell ads, they service clients. When I was dragooned into being the head of the newspaper guild in Philadelphia, the company has claimed, the publisher and the corporate overseer, that they wanted to get all these advertisers we were missing. And I went and very carefully checked, and there wasn't a single substantial business that had a retail interest that wasn't already advertising in the newspaper. It was a myth. And I saw to it that they got what they wanted, 12 commissioned salespeople. And they failed. One of them succeeded, basically, and the rest of them failed because there was no new business to get out there. And the one who succeeded was because they took business away from existing members. The advertising business for newspapers is servicing the account, not selling the account. TV is another matter. TV is totally a numbers game, and particularly the cable television shows. I mean, we've seen a big drop-off in viewership at night of CNN and MSNBC, and I think also Fox, though I'm not sure about that. Now that Trump's out of office.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things they talked about was that drop-off. I mean, you've seen a drop-off in audience to cable TV anyway, so, you have the attenuation of that audience across all these different platforms now, Netflix and Amazon Prime and et cetera. So you're beginning to share audience with gamers and all the rest, although gamers aren't the ones who are normally watching those news channels because they tend to skew older. Anyway, your point, I think, is an interesting one, that in separating print media from television, it's all media, it would seem, on some level, loves the horse race, but yes, print media has the ability to talk issues probably in ways that the television
and one of the things
value.
Your listeners should be aware of. Ad departments have exactly zero influence in the newsroom. Under the publisher of the LA Times, who had run one of the big cereal companies in Minneapolis, when he became publisher, and they made some secret deal with an advertiser, the paper ran a 48,000-word self-expose The editor lost his job. The publisher eventually lost his job. Newspaper people are unique in that we publish journalism reviews. We expose our peers. I've written numerous investigative pieces over my career about bad journalism. In fact, I'm the only person who's ever done this. I caused a broadcast chain to be shut down and go out of business by proving they were manipulating news reports for profit.
What was that, David?
WJIM, gross telecasting, according to Forbes magazine, and the second most profitable broadcaster in America. This was started in '73 when I first exposed them, so 50 years ago, come September. And it took 10 years for the FCC to finally, it technically didn't shut them down. It said it was recommended that they get a 2-year rather than a 3-year license.
I see.
And the signal was, you better sell. And then when they sold for about half what the station was worth, the guy still got $64 million. I remember the mayor of Lansing, Michigan, one of the victims of this corrupt owner, said, man, Harold Gross did every single thing the Detroit Free Press accused him of and more, and he gets $64 million. Ain't American justice grand?
Well, nice job. You should get to work on some of these other news agencies. It's weird, just as an aside, that the FCC controlled so much more. There were regulations and expectations and, government oversight, if you want to call it, even small o on oversight, because it was the public airwaves. Now with cable TV, you just don't have that FCC oversight at all.
There's no legal authority to do anything about Fox or the others, or you.
Yeah, exactly. This on the way out, because I get this a lot, and this is from a distinguished guy, Jim Avila, the former senior ABC News correspondent. He will be in jail soon on Trump. Do you? Boy, it sure feels like everything's getting slow walk, David Cay Johnston. What do you think?
I don't think it's slow walk. I think it's being very, very careful. Okay.
All right.
The calling back of David Pecker, or as somebody said on TV last night, David Pecar, to the grand jury was very obvious what it was done for. It was to establish that Donald Trump and he had conversations showing that Donald Trump knew this was a payoff to Stormy Daniels and it was connected to the campaign. That's why you would call him back. In the Jack Smith federal case, the special prosecutor, he is having interviews under oath with every employee of Mar-a-Lago during the period that Donald Trump had the stolen national security documents that either directly identified or people trained in spycraft could use to identify both our agents undercover overseas and our assets, like somebody in the Kremlin telling stories out of school to us about Putin. Why? Because he doesn't want, some chambermaid to show up at trial with some cockamamie story, but the jury now has reasonable doubt. They are being incredibly careful and thorough. And all the way along, I wrote 2 pieces in the New York Daily News, including their lead Sunday opinion piece, laying into Alvin Bragg for not pursuing the RICO case. And I wrote one piece, here's a roadmap for you, Mr. Bragg, on how to prosecute Donald Trump. It's not the case I expect him to bring, but it was as close as you'll ever get in a fraud to a slam dunk case. And one thing I will expect when we see the indictment from the New York grand jury, because they're going to vote a true bill, it will not be, Mark, a thread. It won't be just the payment to Stormy Daniels, because defense lawyers would then say it was a mistake. He didn't know. He really did it because he didn't want his wife to yell at him. It's going to be a fabric. It's going to have more threads in it than just one. And that's very important to watch for. If in fact it comes out and it's a thread, then boy, Alvin Bragg screwed up right in the grand jury, because he's got plenty of material. There's no shortage of material which to prosecute Trump.
Interesting. And it's been so awaited that when it happens, I feel as though public expectations, everybody's ready for it. Might be the pitchforks are out.
Well, the wheels of justice grind very slowly, and as soon as Donald is indicted, he will step up significantly his effort to throw sand in the gears of justice to try and gum them up. I don't think he's going to get very far with the courts. We just got an order from a judge that Mike Pence has to testify about what he knew, and it was John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the United States, not Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the United States, who, in an opinion in one of the Trump cases, said that, the courts are entitled to every man's testimony. And Mike Pence is not going to slip away and say, it was a confidential conversation with the president. Mark Meadows is going to have to testify, the chief of staff. And all of those people have a choice. You're going to commit perjury and risk being prosecuted if the government can prove perjury and go to prison, or are you going to tell the truth?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The wheels are grinding slowly, but they are grinding. So you can see so much of what David has done at dcreport.org. There's a great piece by Terry Schwadron, who I guess has taken over so much of DC Report.
Yeah, it's a very good piece, the one you're thinking of. You tell readers about or viewers.
Yeah,
it's
the basic overreach of the Justice Department. It's really broken down so well, which is really what I like. I mean, you can get into the weeds, but Terry gives you enough of the particulars without bogging you down. So you can find it at DC Report. Singular, dcreport.org. And you can find David here on Tuesdays. David, such a pleasure, and thank you. All right, David Cay Johnston. Yeah. Right on, right on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens, and this is the greatest radio show in the history of the world. The Mark Thompson Show. It's in all the record books. Look it up.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Morning.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Why are you yelling?
You cannot say you love your country.
You found the Mark Thompson Show. You lucky mother.
All right, stop that. So much fun to be with you. It is Tuesday, March 28th. Kim is sick today, sadly. I know. She really toughed it out for a while, and then she just couldn't tough it out anymore. So she is off today. We hope she'll be back tomorrow. So that's why.
She said it'd be getting better on Friday, but over the weekend she got a setback.
Yeah, no fun. But meantime, we soldier on. I've got a That's Rich coming up. You can smash the like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. I'll also acknowledge some contributions today, which we're completely crowdfunded. So I appreciate everybody stepping up today. You can find us on Patreon and PayPal. Go to themarkthompsonshow.com. The Mark Thompson Show. You have to put the in there, as I've told you. If you're new, if you don't put the themarkthompsonshow.com in there, you go to a ventriloquist website who's named Mark Thompson, and I'm sure he's great. In fact, I actually have seen some of his stuff, and it's good, but it doesn't help us. So themarkthompsonshow.com, that will take you to Patreon or PayPal. You click through, and you can join our community in both those places and smash that like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Meantime,
now, Mark's Madness.
It is a classic face-off, Albert. The drop that Albert hates.
Whoever is reducing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Versus.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
You vote for.
Whoever is reducing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Or.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Vote until midnight tonight in the community section of our channel. Yeah. And Albert, can you update the voting so far, please? It's
not looking good for me.
No, Albert. What is the percentage looking like?
It's 64% to that one drop I will not say, and then they do this to me all. They literally do this to me all the time, Mark. That's what they do to me.
Well, I forget what I chose, but I am so decimated by my other choices. They've all been pretty poor. That my at once perfect bracket has now descended into the
Yeah,
pack
you were the
somewhere.
last perfect. You were the last one standing, and your bracket was perfect. It was impeccable, and it was. I bet you it was fun while it lasted. Like
It was. I was
nice to be
feeling, and
on
then
top.
I started peacocking. You'll remember I started peacocking. I deserved what happened to me because I started. Well, I know my audience, and I know which way they'll vote.
Stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
I really do owe an apology to myself and to everyone because I was peacocking. I was, I was getting too jacked up on my own BS, and now I've been knocked down to size. So. Thank you so much for all the ways you show us love. Do you want me to do the acknowledgments now?
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Wait, a major announcement. Albert, let's go to Commissioner Albert.
Albert, thank you.
Tell us what the major announcement is, please.
Before I get to the major announcement, next round, where my weed smokers at? If the producer moves on, I'm feeling good for my weed smokers, so I'm feeling good about the bracket. But here's the real major announcement.
Yes.
It's actually, we will do our acknowledgments, but we'll start it off with this major announcement for major contribution by Maud.
That is extraordinary. On this channel, we don't get a lot of huge donations like this, and it makes such a difference. And a big shout out to Maud Day.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Another big shout out.
Big shout out.
And I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna cry, but Maud.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm telling you, Maud.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
You could make me cry with that. Maud, I'm going to give you a thank you. That's so cool. Thank you. We love you, she says. Maud, we love you back. Thank you so very much. Really, truly makes such a difference. We are completely counting on your donations. So Denise Chandler, thank you for $9.99. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Lulu, hope Kim feels better soon, and a $10 donation in Kim's name. Thank you, Lulu. Appreciate that as well. Jennifer Urbane, $10 for the super sticker. Thank you
so much.
Jennifer and Lulu. Edward Lee, Mark, you need to push back on his litter comment. Oh, really? He said that we had solved the litter. Well, I think he meant public littering is viewed as an issue no longer, or it's diminished as an issue. You have to concede that. I think his point is actually a pretty good one, don't you think, Edward? I think I take your point, which is that what I would say it's still an issue because you just need to look at the waterways around the Bay Area and California. You just need to see the landscapes, the way they're defiled, and the way you can find, beer cans and every bit of detritus, which is a dingword, everywhere. But I think what he's talking about is the throwing crap out the window while you're driving along. That's no longer the kind of thing you find in America. So I take his point, but I also take your $2 and give you a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for your comment. Gail Guthrie with $9.99. Thank you so much, Gail. Appreciate that. And thank you, Ms. Organic with $4.20. I get what you did with the $4.20. Yeah, you did.
Where are my weed smokers?
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vilma, thank you, $9.99.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, Vilma. Liberace would be proud. $4.99. Here's a contribution toward the Get Well card for Kim. Yeah, Kim's not well.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, she's not doing well, so I appreciate that. And Sausalito Steve, my old crib right there in Sausalito. Loved it. Give you a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Sausalito Steve. And I'm going to give you a
thank you.
Wow, what a round. What a really great round. And Harry Magnan, a teddy bear for Kim. Get well
Kim, how are
soon. You? Yeah. Get well soon, Kim. Thank you. And Kevin Hobbs, 44. Kevin, you're Hall of Fame. I'm not gonna, but all your contributions could make me.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
But I'm in cry territory.
There's never been anything like this.
Kevin Hobbs, amazing. He has a statue in Thompson Terrace. Yes. Thank you all very much for your contributions. It really does make a difference. And as I say, it's how we stay on the air. Crowdfunding. Those of you who are Patreon and PayPal members, we will acknowledge you specifically, but you are acknowledged also at the end of every show. You'll see those contributions and those contributors as they roll by at the end of the show. And you'll notice at the end of the show, certain names are very big and certain names are sort of big in relation to these donations we want to recognize that have been so sizable. Like we have a donor, I think she gets the screen by herself, named Jylene. And she is amazing in her Patreon. She, literally every month gives us hundreds of dollars. And so that money is directed right to payroll and right to expenses. So we thank you. But all of you, even those of you who contribute smaller amounts and what you might consider small amounts, it all matters. So thank you. Appreciate that. Albert, are we doing That's Rich here? If you have the graphic, I got the sounder. Yeah. Let's do it.
Ready. Who are they?
The top 1/10 of 1%.
What are they like?
These people are so posh and snobby, they're snotty.
That's Rich on the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. You know it, kids. How about that Powerball winner? The record-breaking Powerball winner. He won $2 billion, you remember? Just days after closing on a mansion in the Hollywood Hills. I told you about that mansion in the Hollywood Hills. It was $25.5 million. And this dude who stepped up, his name is Edwin Castro. He was the Powerball winner and bought that property. He's now turned around and bought a second property, also in Southern California.
What?
Yes, I applaud it too. Why not? You got the money? You want a couple of places? So he's got a crib in the hills, and now he has a crib in Altadena. It's a 43...
no need to beat the traffic when you just have properties all over the place, right?
Thank you. That's a great reason to buy a bunch of properties. Albert is completely right. This one is not far from the gas station in Altadena where he bought the winning ticket. And he's picked up this 4,361 square foot Japanese-inspired modern home. It was built in the 50s. It includes a manicured courtyard and a private oasis. There's also a saltwater pool in the backyard. One of the bedrooms is being used as a personal theater. Wow. I'm going to tell you something confidentially. If Courtney ever leaves me, and believe me, I'm day to day, I think I would turn one of the rooms into a theater. That's a great idea. A personal theater. Something.
Personal
am I right?
theater. Get the BART train. You remember they were selling at BART trains? You really wanted one.
Albert, not only do I not need to be reminded of that, but just this past weekend, I looked at the BART trains again. I would love to own an old BART train. Now, what you want is the original BART trains with the sloping front, right? And with some of those original markings. They make you take the markings off. There are all kinds of deals you have to make with the Transit Authority, but I still want one of those. And they're $10,000. And I wanted one, and Albert, and we talked to all of you about this before, but Albert and I really were looking at it. Albert and I were thinking of moving into a quiet, roomy BART car for a while.
It would be cool to just have shows in there, and I'm sure the visuals would look really cool.
Oh, dude, we would have made news. It would have been great. I was serious about. I had the money at the time. Could have done it, and I had the desire to do it, but we didn't know where to put it. That was my problem. I didn't know. You got to get a lot. You got to get somebody to watch it when you're not there. I mean, so. Anyway, back to our lottery winner. Castro won the largest Powerball jackpot in history in November. He opted to take the lump sum payment. Was about $1 billion, $1 billion. And his mansion in the Hollywood Hills cost him less than 3% of his total winnings. And this $4 million that he drops on the Altadena property is less than 0.5% of the jackpot that he won. So Castro is living it up. The abandoned $4 million Florida lair of Osama bin Laden's brother. We've shown you this before. If you're a regular viewer or listener, you know we've talked about this. It has a horse stables. It has a private lake, a private swimming pool. Osama bin Laden's brother is Khalil bin Laden. He bought the place for $1.6 million in 1980. He was at the mansion with his wife Isabel and their son Sultan during the September 11th attack. No indication that Khalil had connections with terrorism, but this is what the place looks like, and now it's kind of run down. But it is a pretty spectacular property, even though now, as you can see, all the stuff there has gone to seed. You know, it's no longer spiffy. But in February of 2006, at the height of Florida's housing boom, his company, and that's what he was, a developer, sold the property for $4 million. He made a profit of $2.4 million from the sale. Huge mansion complete with swimming pool and jacuzzi and those huge tubs. But, you know, it has a questionable, and look at the living room. We're going to show you this living room picture. That's one of the rooms, not even the one with the, that's it. Yeah, thank you. With the fireplace at one end and the beamed ceiling with the kind of interesting way in which the ceiling is beamed. And that's gorgeous, you know. I don't know if that's a living room or what that is, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, it's got a troubled history, though, because I think the Bin Laden name doesn't really boost the bottom line.
Yeah, it's
right?
like mentioning somebody died in this house, but it's like almost the same kind of energy. But yeah, I don't know about buying a house. Oh yeah, I just want to let you know that this house was previously owned by, you know. Yeah,
it's in the documents. One thing you have to tell you is that the house was previously owned by what's there? And by who? By what's that? Yeah. I was just saying that the house was previously owned by So that's rich for today.
More on how the other half lives.
These people aren't just rich, they're crazy rich.
Next time on the Mark Thompson Show.
It's too late for me to suck up to that Edwin Castro, the lottery winner. I feel like we would have had a lot in common.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I would have happily hung out with him in his Hollywood Hills estate.
It'd be cool if he bought the gas station that he won the whole thing at, since he's living just down the street.
Oh, that's a great idea. You ought to give him that idea, Albert. Reach Edwin Castro. I'm sure he's available.
We're only talking about how he's spending his money. How is he investing right now? I think that's what I'm kind of worried about. He's a big spender right now. And
oh yeah, you're worried about that?
No.
No, he's spending right now. But let's face it, he could lose a lot and still be in pretty good shape, I think.
Maybe I can send him an email so he could sponsor the show, maybe.
Oh, that would be so great. Albert, I'd like to do some stories from the sky if I can. Can I do that quickly on the way out? Do we have time? All right. Yeah. I have the intro. I don't have the close, so maybe you can rally the close, but I do have the intro, so here we go.
We have clearance, Clarence. Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
More good times with passengers trying to open doors on flights before the flight has taken off. And this passenger opens a door on a Delta Airlines plane, triggers the emergency slide, and jumps out. So it's the... No. A woman on the plane who saw the incident said the flight attendants tried to stop the passenger, but he, quote, deployed the slide and jumped out as was about to leave LAX. An unruly passenger, detained, messed with the exit door, got it open. The flight was on its way to Seattle, still on the tarmac and pushing away from the gate when this incident occurred. It just happened.
Maybe he literally took you pick an exit row seat, and then people ask you, are you willing and able to help in case of emergencies? And you're like, yes. So maybe he was just play testing the whole thing to make sure it's working.
Yeah. The flight attendant told the man that he could not open the door, grabbed him, and within 2 seconds, he opened the door, according to witnesses. Delta Airlines confirmed this entire incident.
It was great. I loved it.
Passengers were taken off the plane, moved to another aircraft so they could continue with their journeys. No arrests were made, but the man was transported to a local hospital for mental evaluation. I see. They think he was not right in the head. But he did get the door open, so there's that. Southwest Jet, yet another, involved in a near miss This missed an ambulance, this Southwest jet, that crossed its path on takeoff by just 173 feet. The two were that close. A desperate air traffic controller tried to stop the vehicle. It happened at BWI, Baltimore Washington International Airport. Rescue truck crossing the runway without authorization from air controllers. The FAA categorizes this. I guess they categorize different incidents. They call this one with significant potential for collision.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's scary enough without all of that. But
I mean, this is the third instance of this happening in the past, couple months since this year has changed. Like, JFK had one, and I think LA had one. Well, LA was like a helicopter one. So it's that and train derailments. It's like really in right now.
It is. You're right. It is a weird time for transportation. There are all kinds of hiccups. The LA Chargers defensive tackle, Sebastian Joseph Day, accuses a TSA agent of sexual assault. The Chargers defensive tackle accused a male TSA agent of sexually assaulting him before a recent flight out of Southern California. It happened Friday morning at John Wayne Airport. This dude won a 2022 Super Bowl ring with the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe the guy was just looking for the Super Bowl ring? No?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm going to find it. Listen to this. After I asked the gentleman to please stop because I'm uncomfortable and I feel that this part of the check is unnecessary, after the TSA agent said he felt it was needed, then they told me I was the problem after 3 TSA agents swarmed me. Joseph Day didn't go into any greater detail. He couldn't immediately be reached for comment. I'm all for people doing their job well, he said, but it was extremely unnecessary and dehumanizing. I'm not sharing this on Twitter, which is where everybody shares stuff, for sympathy. I'm sharing this so this group of gentlemen and staff aren't allowed to do this ever again to another human being, he wrote. The TSA is speaking with the officers involved and reviewing security video of the incident. TSA said they are aware of the allegations made by a traveler who was screened by TSA officers at John Wayne Airport Friday morning. We are looking into the matter to determine our procedures were followed. They have processes.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
An airport rep declined comment yesterday. And finally, there was so much in the way of strikes that are approaching the Easter season that British Airways is about to cancel more than 300 flights to and from Heathrow over the Easter holiday.
What?
Strikes by airport security staff. There's strikes now related to a number of different things. There's strikes in France, et cetera, because of that's to do with the retirement age and Macron, but there's also the history of labor in Europe is filled with examples of labor strikes, one sort or another. And this latest round is likely due to strikes by airport security staff, these cancellations. The airline is axing about 5% of its schedule. 16 return short-haul flights canceled daily. It said that majority of the affected customers will be booked onto alternative flights within 24 hours. Members of the union voted to strike in a pay dispute with Heathrow. They've offered a 10% rise after years of pay freezes during COVID. The staff on strike work in the security lanes in Terminal 5, used exclusively by British Airways, take place between the end of the month, Friday the 31st, and Easter Sunday, April 9th. It will affect a lot of travel around Europe, though. So be aware. And that, my friends, do you have the close, Albert, or not?
I do have the close.
All right. That, my friends, is Stories from the Sky for today.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
I'd like to make sure all the production elements are in place before I button out the segment. You understand. I know.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We are wrapping up.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes, okay. I think one is enough, but thank you. We're wrapping up, and I do want to acknowledge Tom, who tosses a little something in our virtual tip jar. Thank you, Tom Malloy, for $5. Al Anonymous for my dear nemesis and lovely host, Mark. Are we nemesis? Oh, thank you, Al, nonetheless. You know, always appreciate you being in the mix. How does Casey not run away with this whole tourney? Guess they do this to him all the time, though. B.O. for $5. That's right. Casey's in the...
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
He's well in it with the producer drop today.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
But we'll see who prevails. You can vote till midnight tonight. It is... again, Mark's Madness will go on. Where are we in the tournament, Albert? What's the?
We're in the Sweet 16 right now, and it's adding up. All the drops have been played, and they've all these are all winners of the last round. So they do have some popularity behind them because they did make it this far. But it's like the voting today has been very one-sided.
This is not the one I wanted. I don't know what this refers to, but nor is this. That's the one I wanted. Thank you. Luis says, if producer has no idea wins March Madness, Albert should cut down the virtual nets. I agree, Albert. You should embrace
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, well, that's tough.
I saw one of these coaches
they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
What's that?
I saw one of the coaches who did cut down the nets. They advanced to the Final Four, and he did a trust fall from the ladder, from the top of the ladder, WWE style, fell straight back into his player.
Wow.
So it was a wild idea, but he might break their hands doing it.
Now,
I love it.
Mark's Madness.
You'll vote till midnight tonight. Yeah, you vote for whoever's producing.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
And you vote for...
you know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
And it's still... what was the first one? We'll do it live? Was that it?
Yeah, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
What was that playing against? The weed?
Weed smokers.
Where are my weed smokers at?
All right, so they're all in play till midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel. So good luck, everybody. We're excited about it. We think that good things are ahead. We like a fair competition. We had Spencer Christian on today. Thank you so much, Spencer. David Cay Johnston, thank you so much. A breakdown on the banking system and a walk through basic economics, but it's really fascinating. This guy is going to break it all out for it. Dylan Radigan joins us tomorrow. And he says there's way more to this banking thing than is being played. So we'll get that going for tomorrow. Also tomorrow, John Rothman joins us. I want to talk to John Rothman about what's going on in Israel and the double clutch that the Netanyahu administration has done now. We'll see about that with Rothman tomorrow as well. Much to do, and Mark's Madness continues. Big show tomorrow. Maybe King
I'm
comes
Shadow
back.
Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Albert, thank you.
Albert, thank you.
Bye-bye. And thank you all. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.